I never expected my billionaire father to freeze in shock when I signed to the black waitress. The room went still. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The vibrant air filled with chatter plunged into an icy silence that felt suffocating. Eyes widened around us. I stood there, trembling, my breath hitching. How could a single decision stir such chaos? The waitress, with skin like polished mahogany and a warm smile that could light up the darkest corners of my mind, blinked in bewilderment. Her name was Jade, like the precious stone, and she had an air of quiet strength. I admired her, but did they? The presence of my father loomed, his broad shoulders tense, his jaw clenched. For years, I had been trapped under the weight of his expectations, shackled to a legacy I never chose. As tears sprung to my eyes, everything around me blurred: the glistening chandeliers, the extravagant tables dressed in white linens. I felt the enormity of the moment shuffle forward, pushing against the air. My heart raced. I had hoped this would be a moment of courage, a stand for my beliefs and love, yet all I could feel was fear. My father's voice finally broke the silence, low and dangerous. "What have you done?" It was more of a growl than a question. As my hands trembled, I looked into his eyes, desperate to bridge the chasm of misunderstanding that stood between us. His face was a mask of anger and confusion, the contrast vivid against the opulence of his surroundings, opulence I had grown to resent. People were watching, their whispers crawling through the atmosphere, snippets of discontent and judgment. "Is she crazy?" I could hear one person murmur. "How could she?" Another voice quipped, dripping with disdain. I felt the weight of their piercing stares, their collective judgment tightening around my chest like a vice. Jade's eyes were calm, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty there. I think it's time we leave," she suggested softly, her voice gentle like the morning light breaking through a storm. I grasped her hands, holding tight, grounding myself in that moment. This was my choice. My truth, but as I glanced back at my father, still frozen, a thought gnawed at my insides. Would I lose everything? The wealth, the status, the safety he provided, all for a love that felt real? In that intense heartbeat of silence, stretching on forever, I felt caught between worlds. Then, just before I turned to leave, a hand shot out, gripping my arm. It was not my father. Someone else. My heart dropped, the room darkening. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach, my breath hitching once more. "Where do you think you're going?" The voice was low and commanding. My entire body went cold. Who was this person? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The weight of that voice snapped me deeper into reality, dragging my attention away from the whirlwind of my own emotions. The familiar authority and menace that came from Jonathan, my father's right-hand man, drenched the air with tension. He had always been the one to deliver my father's orders, a calculating puppet master pulling strings behind the scenes. I had seen him before, lurking in the shadows, but never had he so openly confronted me. "Let her go," Jade's voice broke through the fog of uncertainty, a spark of defiance igniting in the soft tones. She stepped closer, the warmth of her presence shielding me from Jonathan's icy demeanor. His grip on my arm tightened for a fleeting moment before he released me, a look of disdain flashing across his face as he turned his attention to Jade. "What's your business here, waitress? You have no idea who you're messing with," he spat, the venom in his words a contrast to her poised demeanor. I watched the exchange, my heart racing, as I sensed Jade's strength unfurl. "I'm here because I care about her." "That's more than your money can ever buy," she replied, her voice steady, each word laced with conviction. Hope curled within me, but doubt lingered like a shadow at the edges. The eyes of the crowd darted between us, captivated by the unfolding drama, their whispers rising like a wave. I felt like a spectator in my own life, an artist's brush painting a chaotic scene, with no control over the canvas. Jonathan scoffed and turned back to me, his expression hardening. You need to think carefully about your choices. This isn't just about you anymore. Suddenly, a sharp pang of panic twisted in my gut. What would my father do? The prospect of losing everything loomed larger than before, an unfathomable abyss yawning beneath me. In that moment, I realized the gravity of what stood at stake, not just my relationship with Jade, but also my family ties, the love I had never truly accepted, the legacy I was expected to uphold. What? You think you can just walk away into the sunset with her? Jonathan hissed, eyes narrowing in disgust. You're a fool if you believe that love will shield you from the reality of who you are. The media will have a field day with this, and your father? He will go to war. Pain rippled through me at the thought of my father unleashing his wrath. There had always been whispers of how unyielding he could be. My heart ached as I faced the unsettling reality. If I chose Jade, it could mean severing ties with my family permanently, the very family I had known, had loved, and yet resented for their rigidity and judgment. Just as my resolve began to falter, a small commotion nearby drew my attention. An elderly couple sitting a few tables away had risen from their seats and moved toward us, their expressions full of empathy. The woman, holding onto her husband's arm, approached with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with compassion. Young lady, I've been watching you, and I must say, it takes remarkable courage to stand up for what you believe in, she said softly, her voice cutting through the tension like a melody. Love knows no boundaries, it shouldn't be dictated by wealth or race. Do not let fear control your heart, her words breathed unexpected warmth into my chest. I felt a glimmer of validation, a fleeting sense that perhaps, just maybe, I could choose what my heart truly desired, even if it meant facing the storm that followed. Jonathan sneered, glaring at the couple as if they had transgressed a mighty law. Go back to your seats. This is none of your business, he ordered sharply, but his facade of authority wavered slightly in the wake of the couple's unwavering kindness. On the contrary, the elderly man said, his voice hoarse but firm. It's everyone's business when love is at stake. Don't let fear build barriers, build bridges instead. With that simple act of compassion, my heart surged with hope. Perhaps this was a sign that humanity still existed, even in moments of chaos. As the couple turned to leave, a cacophony erupted on my other side, pulling my attention back to the grim reality that surrounded me. My father had finally moved, a specter of rage rising as he charged toward us, his presence darkening the mood further, like a storm eclipsing the sun. Enough of this nonsense, he bellowed, voice booming, eyes burning into me. You think I won't protect what's mine? This farce ends now. The world spun, and in that heartbeat of anxiety, I realized something profound. Every action, every decision from this moment on would redefine my life. Then, out of nowhere, I felt Jade's hand slip into mine, her fingers intertwining with mine, holding on fiercely. And in the confusion, my father's furious voice rang loud and clear. Your time is up, Ellie. Tonight, you will leave with me or else. A chill washed over me, dread pooling within as I looked to Jade, whose expression was a mixture of courage and resignation, ready to fight for our future. I knew I had to make a choice, one that would irrevocably alter the path of my future. The walls were closing in, and outside, the world continued unaware of the battle brewing within the four walls of our reality. In that moment, I released a shaky breath, my heart pounding as the stakes rose higher, ready to plunge down a path I couldn't yet see. As my father's anger enveloped the room, I felt the suffocating weight of his expectations pressing down on me. My heart raced as I held Jade's hand, her warmth becoming a lifeline, yet the abyss beneath felt ever closer, threatening to swallow me whole. My father's eyes, usually sharp and unyielding, now darted to Jade with a mixture of contempt and confusion, as if grappling with the reality of this moment. Who does she think she is? He thundered, his voice slicing through the dim light. A waitress, offering you what? A life of struggle? His sneer was laced with disgust, but I looked into Jade's eyes and saw a depth of courage that inspired me to stand my ground despite the avalanche of fear cascading around me. Someone who fights for love, I replied, my voice trembling but resolute. A ripple of gasps swept through the crowd, the tension electrifying the air as spectators realized a confrontation was brewing. You may not understand that, but it matters. Love doesn't mean anything if you don't have the resources to support it, he replied, anger directing every syllable. You think she will be embraced by our world? You'll only bring disgrace upon our family. With each scornful word, I could feel the barriers between me and my father solidifying, as if an unseen chasm was stretching wider. I wanted to scream that I didn't care about the disgrace, because love should never feel that heavy, should never be reduced to a transaction. But at what cost? Fear wrapped tightly around my throat, making it hard to breathe. My gaze fell toward Jade, whose hope had dimmed slightly. I saw in her eyes the flicker of uncertainty, the daring spirit that had shone so brightly mere moments ago now cast shadows of doubt. Before I could respond further, my father unleashed one final strike. Make your choice then. Are you going to continue this charade with a woman who is nothing but a mark on your reputation? Or will you return to your family, where you belong? His eyes bore an intensity that shook me to my core, an ultimatum I hadn't been prepared for. Uncertainty clawed at my insides, but it was the gentle squeeze from Jade that ignited a surge of defiance. In her silence, she offered me the strength to embrace the choices before me, each one heavy with consequences and far beyond the mere contours of love. Ellie, Jade whispered softly, her voice brimming with warmth, whatever you decide, I'll support you. You are not alone. Her unwavering belief waded through the turmoil, wrapping around me like a cocoon. I turned back to my father, searching for clarity amid the chaos. I can't go back to the way things were. The life you've built for me feels like a cage. A beautiful one, yes, but still a cage. The words poured out before I could hesitate, freeing feelings I had buried in the shadows of expectation. Cages are built for protection. He shot back, fury mixed with desperation. You are my daughter. I have given you a life others can only dream of. I don't want that life if it means sacrificing my happiness. I pressed back, heart pounding. The room hummed with tension, the crowd enraptured by the familial tempest, while whispers grew louder, wrapping around us like a chilling breeze. Jade stood beside me, our hands tightly intertwined, as my eyes roamed through the sea of onlookers, faces reflected awe, shock, and perhaps an understanding of the gravity of this moment. It was strange to witness such fragmented lives witness our struggle. Perhaps they saw their own battles mirrored in our exchange. Your happiness doesn't matter if you bring ruin upon this family. My father insisted, voice breaking slightly, a flicker of fear creeping into his otherwise unyielding demeanor. You will regret this choice, I promise you. The words cut deeper than delicate knives, piercing through the fragile shield I clung to. But then, in the distance, a faint voice shattered the tension. The elderly couple who had offered their compassion before now advanced toward us once more, weaving through the throng of spectators. Ellie, the woman called, her voice soft yet resolute, you must recognize that choosing happiness doesn't mean destroying what you already have. You can build a path that honors your family while remaining true to yourself. My father's frown darkened. Stay out of this. But the old man stepped closer, his brows set in determination. You must realize, sir, that a home is a place of love, not just where expectations govern rule. You're in danger of losing your daughter entirely if you don't reconsider your position. I felt overwhelmed by the tide of voices, an unexpected sea of support, and yet anxious thoughts circled back. Did I even know how to navigate the tempest I was in? Jonathan stepped forward, visibly agitated, wishing to squash this uprising of sentiment. All the while, I felt my father's glare searing into me like a beacon of warning. Yet in that moment, I found a flash of clarity. A decision formed in my mind, a flickering light illuminating the darkness. Just as I was about to voice my intent, Jade squeezed my hand tighter, her apprehension creeping back, and it struck me that if I was about to unleash chaos without realizing the storm I might create. But as I opened my mouth to speak, the sudden pull of dread gripped my heart. A high-pitched cry erupted from the back of the venue. All heads turned. A figure stumbled forward, a familiar face, coated in panic. "Ellie! You have to listen to me." The voice was unmistakable. It was Sam, my brother, his cheeks streaked with sweat and desperation. An ominous wave washed over the crowd, but my pulse quickened, and with it, a rush of dread tightened around my throat. "Sam, what's wrong?" I could barely breathe as I watched him struggle through the throng, his eyes wide and frantic, as if he carried the weight of a painful burden that was about to tumble upon us all. "Dad, they took Mom. They're going to," he gasped, his breath hitching painfully. The finality of his words hung heavy in the air, crashing like shattered glass against the fragile hope I had just begun to build. Suddenly, a tiptoe, a fracture through perception, as old loyalties wavered before new, unyielding fears barreled toward me. My heart raced, knowing the real battle was just beginning, and I stood at the precipice of a decision that could fracture everything I loved. The room erupted into chaos, a whirlwind of frantic whispers and shock as Sam's words hung ominously in the air. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the solid contours of my reality crumbling. Everything I thought I understood about love, family, and loyalty quickly disintegrated into a fog of uncertainty. "What do you mean, they took Mom?" My voice trembled, my heart hammering in my chest. The facade of power and control that had lingered between my father and me collapsed like a poorly constructed house of cards. "They say she was seen leaving the neighborhood after the gala. She never came home," Sam panted, his eyes wide with fear. "They took her because of you, Ellie. They thought she was siding with you." I swept my gaze over the crowd, composed faces painted with concern and disbelief. It felt like a scene from a movie, one where the protagonist suddenly discovers that the thread of family loyalty could unravel into complications more sinister than mere arguments over love. My father's expression, once a mixture of rage and control, turned pale, a flicker of fear replacing the contempt he had held for both Jade and me. "Get out of my way!" my father shouted, suddenly unrestrained, pushing past the strangers attempting to grasp what was happening. "No one touches my family." His voice was raw with emotion, the iron grip of authority giving way to a desperate father racing against an unknown assailant. I craved to follow him. The instinct to protect my mother entwined with the reluctance of leaving Jade behind felt like a battle within a battlefield. But Jade, ever the steadying force, tightened her grip on my hand, her eyes radiating an understanding that surpassed words. "Go. You have to be with him," she urged softly, her voice quaking under the weight of the circumstances. "I'll find my way. Just go." Tears prickled the backs of my eyes. The courage I felt moments ago now felt like a weighty mantle. I nodded, knowing that every fiber of my resolve urged me to prioritize my mother's safety. "Don't leave this place without me, Jade," I whispered, squeezing her hand before letting go. I turned and followed Sam and my father, the path unclear and fraught with danger. In the brief moments I dashed through the scattering crowd, I caught sight of the elderly couple watching with wide eyes, their expressions etched with concern. Would they understand my turmoil? Would anyone? We burst through the exit, the heavy doors swinging open to reveal the chaos outside. A cacophony of honking horns and shouting voices met us, the gala becoming a distant memory swallowed by the pulse of urgency and danger. "Where do we go?" I gasped, my legs barely keeping pace with my brother and father as they stormed toward the parking lot. My mind raced with disjointed thoughts. Questions peppered my thoughts, the disarray of emotions twirling within me. Could I trust my father? Could I trust the world we had navigated together? Mom's last known location was her office. "We're going to check there first," Sam shouted back, his expression a mixture of determination and dread. "She worked late on the gala night because she wanted to discuss something important with you. It was about this piece of art she thought you'd love." A pang of guilt struck deep as memories of my mother passed through my heart, her laughter bubbling, her quiet wisdom punctuating our conversations. Did she suspect the turmoil swirling around me? Did she know how far the fallout would reach? But now was not the time for dwelling. I pushed the anxiety aside, racing through the lot, my father's car looming ahead like a vessel of hope amid the chaos. We jumped inside, and my father stripped emotion from his voice as he spoke, a fierce determination now governing his every method. "Buckle up," he commanded as he threw the car into gear, tires screeching against the asphalt as we sped toward the stark reality awaiting us. With each passing minute, dread pulsed through me, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. We arrived at my mother's office, an unassuming building that bore the weight of my childhood and future. Dreams alike. Sam was out of the car, pulling me alongside him toward the glass entrance. As we crossed the threshold, an uneasy silence enveloped us. The gilded awards adorned the walls, the framed photos of a lifetime's dedication contrasted starkly with the ominous atmosphere. My heart raced as we moved through the offices, each room casting a wider shadow of unease over me. Then, I saw it, my mother's bag discarded near the reception desk, the contents visibly strewn across the foyer. The sight sent icy dread skittering up my spine. Panic surged as I shoved past the door, hoping to find a trace of her presence, the hope of finding her safe flickering its last breath within me. "Mom!" I called, my voice echoing against the walls as we ventured deeper into the empty halls, the stillness clawing at my heart. Then, my phone buzzed in my pocket, slicing through the tension. I fumbled to pull it out, heart racing as I glanced at the unknown number flashing across the screen. Hesitation nipped at my thoughts, but curiosity proved stronger. "Hello." I answered cautiously, my voice trembling. The reply on the other end was unlike anything I anticipated. "Is this Ellie?" It was low and gravelly, a voice steeped in shadows that sent chills coursing through me. "If you want to see your mother again, then you'll have to listen very carefully." The words dripped with foreboding, and my heart plummeted as the realization washed over me. Was standing at the precipice of a nightmare that threatened not only my family but the fragile love I'd fought for. How could I negotiate in the dark? How could I embrace my choices when consequences loomed larger than ever? I looked at Sam and my father, their expressions reflecting a mix of fear and determination, and I knew then, this fight wasn't only for my mother but for everything I held dear. The battle was escalating, and I had to face it head-on, even if it meant plunging into the abyss. But the uncertainty of the next steps cast a shadow over every flicker of hope I dared to imagine. I gripped the phone tighter, the voice from the other end weaving a dark spell around me. "What do you want?" I managed to choke out, my throat tight and constricted. "Listen carefully," he commanded, his tone firm and unyielding. "You will need to gather something precious to you, something that means the world to you. Only then will I ensure your mother's safety." "Stop. What do you mean precious? What are you talking about?" I could feel my father's hand tightening around my shoulder, a protective embrace mingled with his rising anxiety. "Don't question me. You have until sunset. Fail to bring it, and you may never see her again." The call ended abruptly, leaving me in a haze of confusion and panic. I glanced between Sam and my father, their eyes questioning what had just transpired. They had felt the weight of the exchange, the dread that now clouded our environment even further. "What did he say?" Sam asked, his voice barely above a whisper as though afraid the words would summon more chaos. "They want something precious," I replied, swallowing hard. The realization struck, clawing at the edges of my mind. There were too many interpretations for that singular phrase. "I don't know what that means. Whatever it is, well, figure it out," my father said, regaining a level of composure, but the trepidation was palpable. "Let's get back to the car. We need to think." We stepped back out of the office, the cool air biting against our flushed skin, yet devoid of any literal hostility. It was just the quiet, the murmur of uncertainty shadowing our pace that I collapsed into the back seat as my father started distilling his thoughts into action, arranging a plan that seemed to swirl with desperation and panic. "We need to reach out to someone who can help us, maybe the police, or that could put Mom in more danger." I shot back, fighting to control my rising emotion. "Whoever has her knows that we're looking, and involving authorities could escalate everything." The resolve in my voice faded into silence as we drove along the dark roads that bore no signs of solace or clear answers. Sam glanced back at me with a determined squint, a mix of loyalty and fear intermingling within those youthful eyes. "Ellie, whatever it takes, well, get her back," he said, his voice steady yet tinged with desperation. "We just need to think like she would." His faith ignited a sliver of resolve in me, pulling me back into focus. My mother had always been a beacon of resilience and strength. Could I harness some of that in the face of peril? I leaned forward, my fingers tracing the seams of the worn leather seat. "She'd want us to think of moments, things that brought us joy, closeness, the art." The art piece she'd mentioned before seemed to pulse in my mind, an emblem of our bond, laden with hope and love. "Yes. The piece from the Galath one she wanted to discuss with you." Sam's eyes widened, and I could see the flicker of hope igniting between us. What if? My heart raced as the possibilities unfolded. What if it's not just the artwork? What if it's much deeper, like the meaning behind it? My voice grew stronger as realization washed over me. Mom said it represented our family, our legacy, that we tumbled into thoughts of our fondest memories, each recollection cementing the threads binding us together, shaping our identities. The painting hung in our home. It had been a testament not only to my mother's love for art but a symbol of unity. We could offer that. Offer our family's legacy in exchange for her, I finally said, my voice desperate yet resolute. "Love can withstand this, Ellie," Sam added softly. "We need to find it for her. It'll show whoever has her how important she is to us." "Where's the painting?" my father asked, a new sense of urgency pooling in his expression. "At home," I replied, my heart pounding with growing clarity. We can't waste any time. With renewed determination, we sped towards home, the weight of uncertainty leaning heavy on our hearts. But strangely, through the haze of fear, I could feel the flicker of hope blazing a path forward, an ember that ignited with every shared memory, every vision of my mother's love. As we reached our house, I was met with an unsettling sight. Our front door stood ajar, an ominous invitation into the unknown. My heartbeat quickened as we piled out of the vehicle, apprehension intertwining with an undercurrent of dread winding through my veins. "Stay close," my father instructed, his resolute demeanor returning as he led us into the suffocating silence of our home. Each hallway felt longer than the last, the shadows stretching ominously toward us as we stepped into the threshold. I skidded to a halt, breathless as I spotted the living room. The painting hung untouched, silent yet vibrant, a portal to my mother's essence. But as my fingers brushed against its textured surface, an envelope slipped from behind it, falling to the floor with a soft thud. "What's that?" Sam asked, his voice trembling slightly. I bent down to retrieve the envelope, the weight of foreboding settling steadily within my chest. On the front, a message scrawled in hurried script caught my breath. "For your eyes only." The last thread of hope crackled under the burden of fear. My hands shook as I tore it open, the soft rustle of paper echoing ominously in the stillness. The note inside bore a single sentence, leaving me breathless and grappling with an even deeper uncertainty. "Your precious piece is the key, but only if you're willing to trade your own secrets." The implication sent a pulse of dread through my veins. What could possibly be worth trading for my mother's freedom? I exchanged glances with Sam and my father, their faces mirroring the unsettling mixture of dread and determination. This fight had suddenly spiraled into something I never anticipated. The weight of the envelope felt heavier than a boulder in my hands, each word clawing at my sanity. "Your precious piece is the key, but only if you're willing to trade your own secrets." "What does that mean?" Sam whispered, his eyes darting nervously between me and my father. The uncertainty clouding our home enveloped us like fog. Each breath I took felt laced with despair. I shook my head, a wave of frustration crashing over me. "I don't know. But if we don't figure this out, we might lose her forever." My fingers trembled as I clutched the note, each line pulsing with an eerie foreboding. Trading secrets? What do they even want from us? "Maybe they want to know something personal," my father murmured, his voice tense. "Something valuable enough to them that they would return your mother in exchange. Do you think it's about our family?" Sam suggested, hope shimmering between feelings of dread. "Maybe things they don't know because we've kept them hidden." Like his voice trailed off, a painful thought forming silently in the air, like the truth about my past. I finished for him, my heart sinking. I had always kept certain memories at bay, tucked into corners of my mind where light seldom reached. Memories of an earlier life, one filled with chaos and loss, deep-rooted secrets that haunted me. And now, perhaps they were the currency in this twisted bargaining game that we can't. I can't, I whispered, glancing back at the painting that now felt so far removed from security. The vibrant colors that had once brought comfort now blended into a palette of grief and uncertainty. You don't understand what they could do with that information. My father's face, usually a portrait of unwavering strength, flickered with anguish. Ellie, we might not have a choice. We need to consider the consequences of not acting. His words hung heavy between us, a chasm of fear widening with each heartbeat. Just then, as if the universe was mocking our turmoil, my phone buzzed violently against the floor, vibrating with urgency. Lurching forward, I grasped it desperately. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number. My pulse raced as I glanced up at my father and Sam, dread pooling in my stomach. Answer it, Ellie, Sam urged, his eyes wide with anticipation. It could be them. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the green button. What if it was a trap? What if they were listening to every word? But deep down, fear wrestled with a desperate hope. If they knew anything that could lead us to my mother, I had to find out. Hello. I finally managed, my voice betraying the apprehension swarming within me. Ellie. The voice was calm yet chilling, and I instantly recognized it as the same voice that had called earlier, the architect of our torment. Are you ready to discuss the terms? The terms? I repeated, my heart threatening to escape my chest. You want a secret? What kind of secret? Something that carries great weight, he said, each word dripping with sinister pleasure. We're looking for something that means the world to you, something buried beneath the surface, hidden from those you love. Only then will the trade be equitable. I swallowed hard, backing away from the shadows of my own mind. And if I refuse? The quaver in my voice betrayed my fear. Then the clock will run out, he replied, a chilling finality in his tone. And your mother will remain lost to you, forever. The call ended, leaving a silence so profound it echoed in the corners of my consciousness. I fell back against the wall, feeling every fiber of my being tremble with fear and dread over the inevitable decay of hope. What did he say? My father pressed, breaking the silence like thunder. He wants a secret, I whispered, staring down at the floor, as if answers lay hidden in the carpet fibers. He thinks there's something I've been keeping from you both. Then show him nothing, my father urged, his voice firm. Show him we're stronger than his tricks. We can't give them anything that puts your mother further at risk, but what if that's all we have? What if this is our only chance? The wail spilling from my lips startled us all, revealing the tempest of fear festering in my soul. I can't lose her. Sam stepped closer, his presence a lean tower of bravery. Ellie, whatever it is, we can face it together. We just need to be smart about this. Think of something, anything, that might get her back without sacrificing too much. A part of me instinctively recoiled at Sam's suggestion. More secrets shared among loved ones could breed more chaos. But it was in that tangled uncertainty that I began to consider something. A buried memory resurfaced, flickering like a candle trying to survive a gust of wind. It was something I had avoided acknowledging, a part of my life that had been too painful to unearth. In the midst of the clamor of dread, a shard of clarity pierced through. I might know something I've suppressed for too long. Then we need to embrace it. We can't let them dictate our choices, my father said, though his voice trembled with worry. As my heartbeat thrummed steadily in my ears, I felt the burdens I had carried for too long shift, opening a chasm where salvation and betrayal could dance together. I closed my eyes, seeking strength, but when I opened them again, a new realization illuminated my path. Whatever secret I shared might not only cost me but could also engulf my family. I had begun to stumble toward a devastating precipice, a truth that could sever bonds and expose wounds that may never heal. With trembling hands, I steeled myself to journey into the shadows, ready to unveil the darkness I had kept hidden, unsure of what I might find lurking at the end of this perilous trade. Then, as if the universe was preparing me for my next step, a loud crash erupted from the back of the house, sending shockwaves of fear spiraling down my spine. My heart raced as I exchanged frantic glances with my father and Sam. Something had breached our sanctuary, something that might spell the end of our fragile hope, a new chapter unfolding, steeped in peril and uncertainty. The sound reverberated through the walls, a jarring reminder that safety was a fleeting illusion. "Stay here," my father commanded, the authority in his tone masking the fear flickering behind his eyes. He moved cautiously toward the back door, every step heavy with an unspoken dread. Sam and I exchanged alarmed glances, the weight of impending danger rooting us to the spot. "Do you think it's them?" I whispered, my pulse quickening. "Could be," Sam replied, his frown deepening. "We need to be prepared." Just then, the door burst open, and the unmistakable shape of a figure loomed in the threshold. My breath hitched, frigid air pouring into the room, but it was not the ominous presence I feared. Instead, it was a stranger, her eyes wild with urgency, chest heaving for breath. She was a waitress from the diner down the road, a woman who had always greeted us with kindness and warmth. "Help please." Her voice trembled, barely a whisper amidst the chaos around us, yet her plea rang clear. "I saw something. They're coming for you. I had to warn you." "What?" My father's voice was a blend of disbelief and rising concern. "What did you see?" She stepped inside, her hands trembling, as if the warmth of our home was an alien concept. I was working the late shift. A group of men came in, talking about a trade, about someone who had to pay for something they did. The chill in my bones reached a new low as I took a step forward, the reality dawning on us like a thunderstorm gathering on the horizon. A trade? What did they say? "They mentioned a girl," she gasped, her eyes darting toward the shadows. "And something buried, something they want in exchange for her." I felt the ground tilt beneath my feet, realizing that the secret about to be unearthed was intertwined with this warning. "You don't mean my mother," I said, the realization striking through me with brutal clarity. "There's no time," she started, her voice breaking as she glanced nervously back towards the door. "You need to leave. They'll be here any minute." "Why are you helping us?" Sam asked, his voice hushed with disbelief at this unexpected ally. "Because," she took a shaky breath, "I lost my mother too. I know what it's like to be on the edge of losing everything. I need you to believe me, to trust me." Torn between gratitude and cautious skepticism, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions. The waitress felt like a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness, but what if trusting her meant stepping deeper into danger? "Ellie, we can't waste time," my father urged, urgency lacing his voice. "We need to figure out what they know." The waitress nodded. "You need to find the box, the one that has hidden secrets." She pushed a crumpled piece of paper into my trembling hands. Some scribbled coordinates stretched across the top, the ink still dark and fresh, as if it had been written in haste. "I don't know what it leads to, but you'll need to go there. It might hold the key to your future." "What do you mean?" I stammered, fear and curiosity dancing in tandem. "It's something that was meant to be kept hidden," she whispered, anxiety flavorful on her breath, "but in this world, secrets are currency. If they've caught on, you need it now more than ever." At that moment, the air seemed to penetrate through the shield I had created, thickening with the weight of her revelations. I stared at the paper, the coordinates looming large in my mind, directions that pointed towards something buried and long forgotten. Could that be the answer to get my mother back? A chance to barter for her safety without compromising what I held dear. A glance toward Sam showed his eyes shimmering with a blend of determination and fear. "Do we trust her?" he asked, as if my decision was the catalyst that would ignite this unfolding nightmare. "We have no choice," I replied, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and resolve. "We have to act fast." The waitress shifted nervously from foot to foot, her anxiety palpable. "You need to go now. They'll hold them off, but you have to move before it's too late." "No," I shook my head vehemently, the reckless bravery surfacing in my voice. "You're coming with us. We won't leave you here." I knew how dangerous it was to split up, but she needed us just as much as I needed the key to my mother's freedom. "I put myself in danger, but this isn't your fight. I made my choice, and you have to make yours," she insisted, a touch of fierceness igniting her features. "Then we all leave together." I made my decision, feeling it coalesce into something strong and unyielding, something I could hold on to amidst the crushing tide of despair, and with that, the four of us bound by heartache, driven by desperation stole toward the unknown, the shadows of our past trailing behind us like whispers of what we would leave behind. But as we reached the door, a chilling laughter erupted outside like the wild howl of a storm, enveloping the moments between us. My heart dropped, an icy hand gripping my throat. The time we had left seemed to fade into the darkness encroaching around us. Just as we reached for the handle, a voice called out from the other side, one that sent shockwaves coursing through me. "Ellie, you don't have to run. We only want to talk." It was the same voice from the phone, deep and smooth like poison dripping from a vine. Tension crackled in the air as I froze, the reality of my choice solidifying like unyielding steel. Because even as they sought to pull me into their web of darkness, a sly flicker of understanding began to dawn. In a world built on secrets, the most valuable currency might come at a price I could never be prepared to pay. The room felt claustrophobic, shadows pressing in around us like silent witnesses to the impending storm. My heart raced as the voice outside continued, its calmness an unsettling contrast to the tempest brewing in my chest. It was a voice I recognized too well, a velvety tone that had always whispered sweet assurances to me during the years of my mother's absence. "Ellie, please. We can help you. Just open the door. We won't hurt you. I promise." Tears threatened to spill, blurring the edges of the room. I was torn, caught between the echo of past promises and the stark reality of the situation. I could feel Sam's presence beside me, his tension radiating like a low hum of electricity in the air, urging me to make the right choice. "Trap," my father whispered almost inaudibly, gripping my shoulder. His eyes were wide, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "We can't trust them. Not after what the waitress said, but hadn't my mother always been the one to teach me about trust? She believed in redemption and second chances. Would she have wanted me to turn away from hope just because it wore the face of the familiar?" My mind teetered on the brink, vacillating between instinct and reason. "Ellie." The voice called again, dripping with a persuasive silkiness. "For once, believe that I have your best interest at heart. We need to go," the waitress urged, her eyes darting nervously back and forth, each second filled with a desperation that gnawed at my resolve. "They're looking for you." It's not just talk. That I turned to her, finding myself anchored by her sincerity, a flicker of hope ascending amidst the chaos. "What if it's a way to save her?" I asked softly, despite my father's fierce shake of his head. "It's a ploy, a manipulation to lure you back into their grasp," he said, voice shaking slightly in a mixture of fear and anger. "Or it's the way to find out what really happened," I retorted, feeling an unexpected steadiness in my voice, a conviction that took me by surprise. "We don't know what they want. Maybe this is the chance to discover the truth about my mother." Just as I reached towards the door's handle, a loud crash echoed from outside, reverberating deep within my chest. The sound of laughter twisted into a shriek, a physical reminder that our time was slipping away. "Ellie, please," the voice pressed, a note of urgency threading through its silky tone. "You deserve answers. Let us speak." That I in that moment, my heart fell into the pit of my stomach. What if this was the chance I had been waiting for? What if I could uncover the truth of my mother's absence, a chance to forge forward and reclaim what was mine? "No," Sam broke in, dread coloring his tone. "We can't. We can only trust each other right now. Do you think they will spare our lives if we remain silent?" I shot back. "They want something, and if we don't figure out what it is, we'll all lose everything." At the precipice of recklessness and raw desperation, I found myself lifting my chin and reaffirming my stance. "I'm not leaving without knowing the truth. Just listen to me," my father pleaded, voice cracking, the lines of his face pulled taut by fear. "You don't know what they'll do if you let them in. This isn't about trust, it's about survival." But how long had we been surviving and not truly living? My chest ached with untapped emotion, the weight of years spent with unanswered questions bore down on me heavily. I could feel the waitress stiffen at my side, simultaneously urging me forward and pulling me back. As I stood rooted in indecision, flashes of my past began to weave through my mind, the shadowy figure that often visited my dreams, the whispers of promises long forgotten. The thought ignited a fire that blazed through my veins, a revelation that invigorated my senses. Enough. I yelled, frustration pouring out of every word. I need to know. Please just give me that chance. In that moment, as if the universe had conspired to heed my request, the front door rattled violently, a loud thud reverberating against the walls. I stumbled back, terror surging through me, as splintered wood rained down like confetti. Celebrating despair, he's here. The waitress shrieked, just as the door flew open, crashing against the wall, revealing a dark figure backlit by the fading light. Ellie. His voice boomed like thunder, fierce and predatory. Why are you making this more difficult than it has to be? I gasped as I recognized a man I had seen only in fleeting memories, a father's anguish masked behind a figure cloaked in shadows. Why are you doing this? My voice trembled, an ache born from confusion and fear taking root. That he stepped inside, his presence wide like the night, casting long shadows over all of us. An unsettling calm fell, my chest tightening with an anxious weight. Because, Ellie, he said softly, a smile curling on his lips, you wouldn't understand the value of family without a little guidance. And am prepared to show you just how deep this rabbit hole goes. With those words, the air thickened, and every heart in the room held its breath, the chilling silence causing a scream to build within my core. I gripped Sam's hand tighter, knowing full well that whatever lay ahead would either shatter us or pull us closer together. And amidst the chaos swirling around, the cold reality hit me. Sometimes, in the pursuit of the truth, we unearth not just secrets but the unspeakable depths of our own fears, the very darkness we have fought to escape. A heavy silence settled after his declaration, the kind that suffocated. My father stood rigid, the shock carved into his features as he grappled with the revelation. The waitress shot glances between us, her anxiety palpable, while Sam remained resolute at my side, prepared for anything. Guidance? I repeated, my voice rising as a spark of fury ignited. Is that what you call it? You think this is all about family? You vanished. You left me in the dark while I searched for answers. What does family mean when it's built on lies? His smile faltered just for a moment, it was like watching a flickering light. Ellie, it's complicated. I had my reasons. Complicated. I laughed incredulously, the sound bitter on my tongue. Complicated is moving across the country, getting a new job, this whatever this ice, it's monstrous. You think running away is protecting me? He steeled his expression, the fear that once clouded his eyes now replaced by determination. Listen to me. You don't know what they want. They're not just interested in you, they're interested in controlling everything about your future. I had to do what I thought was best to keep you safe. And now, we need to leave. As he spoke, my heart sank, the gravity of his words weighing heavily. I glanced at the waitress, who had her lips pressed into a thin line, her previous urgency replaced by a sense of stark realization. The weight of this moment was catching up to us. Safe? I spat back, my heart racing with indignation. You call hiding me away safe? You took my mother. You took my choices. The memories of my childhood flooded my mind, bright flashes spiraling into darkness. I had believed in the stories of family dinners and Sunday picnics that never happened. I had carved our family into a fragile silhouette from her stories, and now that image was betraying me. In that moment, I felt the air shift. An overwhelming sense of worthlessness surged within like a tide threatening to pull me under. Were my entire years merely a complex facade orchestrated to keep me blissfully ignorant? Ellie, please. My father's voice dripped with desperation, slicing through the haze. We have to go now. Well, explain everything later, but first, we need to get to safety. They are watching. What if I don't want to? I declared defiantly, reflecting the boiling frustration within me. What if I want to face the truth? I won't be another victim to some twisted design. Is it worth your life? He asked, and his question hung between us, heavy with the weight of understanding I refused to accept. I'd rather risk it, I replied, a newfound strength swirling in my veins. Then live another day shackled by your idea of safety. A cry erupted from Sam. Ellie, look out. I barely registered the warning before a shadow darted through the door, sending the waitress tumbling as she tried to shield herself from the sudden onslaught. I felt my heart seize when I caught sight of the figure, a cold reminder of just how real the danger was. "Ellie!" My father yelled, his voice drowned out by the chaos as darkness enveloped us. I stumbled backward, but Sam gripped my waist, pulling me close. "Stay with me." His voice was fierce, but fear shimmered in his eyes. Before I could process the surge of energy in the air, time slowed as a roguish figure entered, tall and burly, standing like an omen of reckoning. "Tell her the truth, Bill," he growled, his eyes locked onto my father, lending a heavy weight to the word truth that rattled through the room. "She deserves to know before it's too late." Dad's eyes flickered with a mixture of fear and unshed pain. He was cornered not just by me, but by his past. "You don't want this, Ellie," he pleaded. "You don't want to know the entire story. What are you so afraid of?" I asked, my voice trembling, propelled by a desperate need for clarity amidst the confusion. "Everything. This isn't a game," he breathed. "There are repercussions far more massive than you can comprehend." The burly figure stepped closer, breathing in my father's hesitation. "If she doesn't know now, she might never get the chance again." With each spoken word, the layers encasing my spirit constricted tighter, each breath thickening with the sense that everything I thought I knew was on the cusp of collapse. The waitress struggled to her feet, eyes darting nervously between the two men. "Maybe it's time for the truth, Bill," she interjected softly. "She deserves to hear it," but the moment she spoke, the ground beneath me trembled, echoing the roiling turmoil inside. "No!" my father exclaimed, stepping forward, the wild fear evident on his face. "You'll never understand the consequences of what you're asking for, then tell me." I shouted, the raw edge of my despair spilling into each word, consuming me. "I'm ready to explore whatever this reality is. Just tell me the truth." But even as I spoke, dread wrapped around me like a barrier, punctuated by my father's haunted expression. "Ellie," he finally whispered, stepping even closer. "Some truths should remain buried for your own good." In that moment, all the chaos came crashing around us. The shadows slipped away, revealing the gaping maw of unknown fears and secrets yet to be unveiled. And as I stared into my father's eyes, trembling with the weight of his hesitation, I realized it was not just the embodiment of fear standing before might, was the choice between ignorance and revelation. What would I sacrifice to claw my way closer to the truth? Without warning, the figure shifted, and a new darkness fell upon the room, carefully weaving itself back into the threads of fate that hung precariously at the edge of my understanding. "Prepare to learn more than you bargained for, sweetheart," the shadow whispered, unveiling a power greater than any of us anticipated. My heart raced, a metronome racing towards an inevitable climax that threatened to unravel everything I thought I understood about my family, my life, and love itself. With each word that hung in the air, the echoes of my father's silence clawed at my throat, and I felt the weight of an abyss opening beneath my feet. What price would I pay for the truth when it felt like a double-edged sword, one that could cut my ties with everything I knew and loved? "Is it worth it, Ellie?" my father asked again, voice trembling as if the very ground quaked at the thought of losing me to this unfathomable quest for truth. Sometimes ignorance is the true sanctuary in a world built on lies. I looked between them, my chest rising and falling with desperation as an onslaught of emotions threatened to burst forth. The burly figure loomed, waiting, anticipating my next breath as if it would determine the fate of our fragile unity. Behind me, I could hear the waitress still trying to catch her breath, reminder that this wasn't just my battle, for everyone stood in the wake of my decisions. "Tell me," I urged, refusing to back down. I had cradled fear inside for too long, and now it was demanding truth. I need to understand what I'm fighting against. I need to know if there's even a chance to save her. To save us, Bill. The figure cloaked in shadows, took a step forward, dark memories cascading off him like shadows veiling the light of understanding. "A chance? You think this is a game about chances?" he said with disdain, contempt woven through his words like a tapestry of chaos. "You don't just get a choice in this world, you either conform or face the consequences of turmoil you cannot control. Your mother. She chose to step into a world that would destroy her. No. My father roared, his anger a vicious tempest. You want to twist those memories into something dark. She fought, she believed in love. His voice trembled with the hurt of unburdened secrets. The very essence of our family, fractured, as if the pieces of who we were lay scattered across the floor. Love is a gamble, and losing can be deadly, Bill retorted, voice low and dangerous. You'll learn this the hard way. Like your mother, the room seemed to hollow out as silence enveloped us, veiled by lingering questions that clawed against the walls of my heart. The air felt thick, suffocating. I imagined the very shadows creeping closer, eager to swallow the light yet untouched. What secrets do you hide from her? I pushed, my words shaking as I probed deeper, desperate to grasp the truth that eluded me. Why father flinched but met my gaze, a flash of anguish racing through his eyes. You don't understand, Ellie. The truth is not always easy to bear. Some lies are protective, designed to shield you from a reality that could tear this family apart. What could be worse than this? I gestured around the chaotic scene, my heart pounding faster with each frantic thought surging through me. This is living under the tyranny of secrecy, this is survival built on fear. Bill stepped closer once again. Can you handle the truth? Can you bear the weight of knowing your family's foundation was built upon decisions made not out of malice but survival itself? The dark undercurrents of his words resonated within me, the looming threat of what he meant taunting my every breath. Enough. The waitress shouted suddenly, her voice was both furious and pained. Ellie deserves to know. You both need to see what you are doing to her. My heart threatened to shatter at her bravery. I could see the truth colliding against fear in her eyes. You can't decide what it is she can endure. You've both made choices that stripped her of her independence long before any of this. Bill's face twisted in irritation, and I faltered for a moment, unsure if I could trust any of them. But that resolve hardened now as I looked around me. My heart found confidence in the people willing to fight for truth, even if it was bitter and jagged. Please, I want to hear everything. A silence passed, thick with tension, before my father spoke softly. There were things we kept hidden to protect you from knowing, roles that were thrust upon us. Your mother was part of a world filled with conspiracy, a world where loyalty has its price. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you in the dark. What world, Dad? I pressed with urgency. What did you hide? What made you think this was better? At that moment, a tremor of realization unfurled within me. The truth was bound to echo through our lives in waves of pain, but it could also pave the way toward healing if I dared to confront it. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. What must we sacrifice? Bill's gaze hardened, but I felt an unyielding bond of resilience with the people surrounding me. I was tired of living in someone else's shadow. Whatever lurked in the truth could no longer spin me into the visions of doubt. The price is your history, he replied, his voice growing heavier, more grave. You must question everything you thought you knew about your family, the choices that led to your current fate. In order to save your mother, you'll have to barter the memories of your childhood, the secrets buried within. No, my father exclaimed, a mix of outrage and despair washing across his features. I'll not allow this. You have no right to drag her into that. Then, she'll never understand the risks, Bill countered darkly. In this game, the truth is the ultimate currency, and she must decide what she's willing to give, her naivety or her mother's place in the world. The choice is hers alone. A vortex of confusion, fear, and rage swirled in my chest, but now it transformed into a cold resolve, a wariness grown from the family fabric I sought to understand. This was a challenge, a pivotal moment aching for resolution. I could feel each breath echo through the stillness, urging me toward an answer. With newfound determination, I took a step back, gathering my thoughts. If I share the truth, the real currency, what's the guarantee that my mother will come back? What's the assurance that any of you will protect her once those secrets are exposed? Bill's expression wavered for a fraction of a moment before he regained composure. There are no promises in this game, Ellie, he said lowly, his voice unwavering. But knowing the price is the first step to understanding what your life could become. You wield the power, now use it to navigate the treacherous waters you're about to dive into. It was the moment of reckoning. As I stood within the confines of this fragile reality, father, waitress, shadow master, the musings of my heart came to fruition. This was my choice, my journey, and in facing the truth, I had the power to redefine everything. Then I choose the truth, I breathed aloud, each word sending shivers through the air as it reverberated against the walls. Whatever secrets, whatever burdens, they shall be unleashed. I will not live in misery or ignorance to the cost of the people I love. The very ground beneath us trembled, as if an unseen force responded to my decision, shaking off the drapes of false security as I readied myself to plunge into the darkness only to emerge into the light of understanding. But we'll do it together. I won't face this alone. You will all help. My eyes locked onto my father, seeing a flicker of warmth swell beneath the waves of anguish, the silent promise that our lives would dance between shadows and light. He nodded with conviction. The waitress stepped closer, her expression now more determined than uncertain. We will, she said firmly, a promise forged in the shared weight of our hearts. And then, Bill stepped back, hidden shadows dissipating from his aura. Very well, Ellie. But know this, embracing the truth comes with consequences. There will be trials ahead. Although fear gripped my insides like a vine entwining around my heart, a flickering tenacity waved through me, reminding me love, loyalty, and hardship could be woven together into something more enduring than fear. As the veil of darkness began to clear, a bright light encroached on the horizon, an unknown journey capturing our hearts. Despite the uncertainty that awaited, hope radiated from within, for we stood together, the lost and the forgotten, souls entwined through love and a fight for everything to reclaim our place on this tumultuous stage of life. Only then, as if summoning the courage that lay dormant within me, did I whisper aloud, we will forgive, we will fight, and in the end we will love. We all stood poised on the edge of revelation, trembling with anticipation. The truth that flowed from our souls would carve a new path through the depths of despair. And as I exhaled, the words resonated through me, sometimes embracing the darkness leads to finding the light, and perhaps, just perhaps, love would weave its way throughout the cracks left behind. And the quiet aftermath, just one strand of understanding burst forth amidst the shadows. To fully embrace love was to relinquish control, to plunge headfirst into connection, stripped bare of expectation, illuminated in trust. The chaos around us faded into the echoes of my thoughts, the thread of love connecting us woven tightly amid the unfolding storm, standing resolute as we readied for the next chapter. I inhaled deeply, letting the moment wash over me, finally free to step into whatever awaited us. Through every heartache, every wound of the past, it collided together in this dazzling sphere of emotion, reminding me that love may shatter and forge anew, but in this fragile world we lingered in, it became the very essence of our existence, woven beautifully amidst the tapestry of our lives. And as the air vibrated with promise, I spoke the very heart of it all. The final line lingering in the air, echoed softly yet resoundingly, destined to intertwine our fates. In the end, love is the only truth worth fighting for.